Welcome everybody to tonight's home clinic. A home clinic is where we grab one quality coach and he presents on one specific subject for you guys to enjoy, and he usually does that from home. If you guys have been enjoying this series and would like to see it continue, we want to ask that you would like and subscribe below. Those things certainly help us to grow and is kind of that feedback to say this is a good thing. Keep this coming. If you have a desire to present in the future, reach out to us on Twitter, DM us. That's at the Chief Pigskin. All right, without further ado, tonight's home clinic. How is everybody? Nate Albaugh here, assistant football coach at Unity High School in Tolono, Illinois. And I'm alongside Ryan Bechmanis. Sorry, coach. I got all ready to introduce you, and then I still screw something up. But defensive coordinator and assistant head coach at Queen's University. And you said it's in Kingston, Ontario?
Yes, sir. We're about halfway between Toronto and Ottawa.
And you played at Queens, and you had coached there before, and now you're back. You've been there for 2 years as the defensive coordinator. What brought you back?
It's kind of being an alumnus of the school, loving the area, loving the city. We're a great university town here, and the opportunity to coach at the alma mater is one that's tough to turn down. So I was fortunate enough to be able to come back 2 years ago, and this would be upcoming. This would be the third season back in the defensive coordinator role.
And I see that you're going to talk today about 30 front and movement. What is it? Give us like a 30-second summary of like the meat, like the most important part of why we're creating movement up front, or what's important about that to you.
For us, it's part of it was created a necessity. We didn't have too many big interior north of 280 D linemen. So we wanted to find a way to still be aggressive, be able to be fluid and different with the fronts that we played. So we've developed this 30 package as our way to get after it, to make the best out of the athletes that we have. Allows them to be successful by using and playing this system. And that's why we've kind of gone to it and keep tweaking, developing as we go.
Well, I'm a odd front guy myself, so I'm excited to hear this. And without further ado, Coach, I'm going to let you take it away.
Awesome. I'll just share my. We're just going to go through a little bit of the base stuff and kind of how we would install and start developing through our concepts here. So a bit of a 30 front package that we've been working with. Again, as I mentioned there, we're based out of a 3-4. We have been for the past 2 seasons because that's the best use of our personnel here. We're a firm believer in our philosophy to get our athletes onto the field, our top 12 guys, and find a way for them to be successful in how they play. Try not to make a player fit into the system, but more develop the system around the players. We like to play aggressive, use movement, and vary the looks, and that's why this defense is big for us. We do a lot of stuff around the concepts. So we'll go edge play concepts, backer moving concepts, how we're going to move everybody around. And we'll go through a little bit in this and how we layer those concepts in and build upon them. I think that's a big believer in that, is to make sure that everything kind of relays back to certain simple concepts for you so the players can understand it. We can throw a lot at them without it seem like it being too much. We can play the variety of offensive personnels that we get without substitutions in our conference. We'll see anything from teams running 3-3 empty one game to the next game you're playing somebody that's double tight end, power, run the ball. So we get a lot of variety in that. So we definitely want to make sure that our system can be fluid and be able to play against all of the looks that we will see. And I said it's the best use of our personnel. It allows our D-line to be aggressive, allows them to get upfield. We have some tall, long players in there that we want to be able to turn loose. And then it allows our linebackers to scrape and flow and not get tied down too much. And the big thing is it allows, with the movement that we do, it allows for us to cover for maybe mistakes that we might make. It allows us to not have to be so worried about holding gaps, but more penetrate and go and then be able to play over the top. So we're based out of kind of a 3-4 here when it looks at the fullback out there, so a 2-back set. So we'll adjust our backers to them. We play our nose starting off in that 0 technique, and then we have our 2 ends. The end and the quick and the 4-0 or the 5 just off the edge, their C-gap alignment to start. We have the ability to play very aggressive on the edge. So we can chase things down. We can go right to the quarterback. We will mix in some shuffle technique as well out there on the edge. But this allows those 3 guys up front to play very aggressive. We have the ability to send a variety of linebackers, but still play man and zone behind it. We still will get to edge pressures and the defensive backs going too, but in this, it's just talking about the backer play. So we can send 1 to 4 of those guys. We can move and drop. So it allows us to really kind of get creative and keep some fun for the guys in there as well, because throughout this system, we'll have every one of our D linemen will get a chance to drop in coverage at one point. All of our guys essentially will get a chance to blitz as well. So it allows us to come at it different ways and still be able to play some zone concepts behind us, which will be easier in the back end for us to do. Again, the D-line, they'll play fast and aggressive, and they can also have a two-way go. So with those open gaps beside them, we allow our guys to chase things down, come underneath blocks, kind of have that two-way go inside for the most part, and allow us to kind of keep the offense on their toes a little bit, not quite sure what we're going to get when they play against us. And that's the whole hope behind it, is to kind of gain an advantage that way. Our backers, it allows them to shift and move and play over the top. They're not necessarily tied down to always just compressing and holding gaps. And we kind of go a simple concept with the backers. If there's an open window and the opponent running back shows in there, you're hitting your gap. If there's no color in your gap, you're going to keep scraping and flowing so that you're able to stay alive and get yourself into the play. That's kind of the attack and react philosophy that we'll use with the linebackers. You see something, you attack it. If not, you're moving and reacting with it. And then we can move the backers in a variety of ways. We can track the fullback with the Sam. We can lock him onto it. Or when he goes either side, we can bump and move our linebackers as well. So it kind of gives us a couple different ways to play something, so we're not just tied down to one thing, because the offensive coordinators are too good in the leagues they'll figure out what you're doing and attacking a certain way. So it definitely gives us some variety in there. We can get to some varied looks out of this as well. What we're able to do is mug or jet linebackers or tough them up. So we can definitely move a backer down and mug them up. We can put a backer down on the edge in a jet look as well. So their 40 front can be concepts, but we're playing out of the 30. When we get that yard off the ball, it allows us to move a little bit more. And then with this mug player, he's even about 2 yards off the ball. So it allows us some time to develop it, and we can definitely get some speed going, because that plays to our strength on the front. We have a lot of movement games, as we'll get to, between the mug player and the guys beside him, even the jetted player and the guys beside him. So, and then we always give the looper and we coach him up on the ability to vary his path. So find that window that's open. Don't just bury yourself into the play. They have the ability, and we coach them up on how to adjust and do that. We're able to rotate multiple linebackers up into the front. Whether we show one and then move up with another one, we'll jet this guy, but maybe it's walking the next Sam down. So it allows us to kind of, again, vary our looks within our concepts. And then we'll layer in off the two-man games, we'll layer in the three-man games involving a stack linebacker or 3 adjacent players on the line of scrimmage. And then we can also show up and the mug guy up here and drop him out, or the jetted guy and drop him out, and send somebody or drop a D-line to kind of keep everything varied on the front. And it kind of gives us the ability to attack the offense in a variety of different ways. So, and we'll do some things out of this. Some weeks we'll set our front and set our looks off of a fullback, a tailback, maybe the strength of the formation or our field strength as well. And we can have those tags in within our calls that just allow us to do something different in the week, but are still same concepts for us. And that's the big thing. So our guys, it may be a different trigger, but it's the same thing that we're doing. So it allows them to learn and keep being successful at that. When we talk about our games that we'll start with here, so we have some edge games that we'll look at. So we'll start on the one here on the left, the eyes concept. What we do here is we're working with the 2 last players in a line of scrimmage. That allows us to be able to put this concept into any front that we have. And then we're working that 2-man game off the edge. So with our stunt concepts on the edge, with the naming of it, we're calling who the looper is going to be. So we're telling the guys how we want the stunt to be run, because certain stunts are better in a run situation. Certain stunts are better in a second and long pass or draw situation for us. And then we also have the ability to just call the stunt and let these guys go and talk through it and be able to be smart football players down there and play to their advantage. Within the eyes concept, what we'll do is we'll take a look at the tackle. So if the tackle steps down, our end can chase it. Then our inside, the next man inside, in this case, the rush, will be able to loop out. But also, if the tackle steps towards them, we can have this end come up and go underneath into that B gap. So now we're exchanging still on the back side of that as well. So we teach a couple different ways to run the stunt. It's something that we can always do in a variety of situations. And then when they get past, when that stunt shows, they'll work that outfield and work their pick and loop technique on there. On the other side, we're talking about our outside looper canal coming in. So the inside guy will penetrate and work to contain through that B gap. Outside guy will try to invite the tackle upfield and then come under to find his window. Again, when he loops, if that B gap's not there because the guard's kicked all the way with our quick, then he's got the option to bring it down into A gap and find his open window to slide through there. So again, these are just edge techniques that we use in terms of playing different ways on the edge that allows us to be aggressive to keep their offense on the toes. And we have rules that go in against every single kind of set that we will see, but base stuff is just exchange. So you're going chase or penetrate through that B gap with the rush looping out. And here we want to hit vertical with that interior defensive alignment in here and work that loop in off the edge, or at least come up and underneath based on what set they're going to get. So it allows us to vary the edge, and we can control it by calling which one that we want to see. And then we also have certain situations where we'll just turn the guys loose and they're going to work on what they're feeling in the game and what the offense is showing them. And we can let them play football a little bit and play to their strengths. We'll also move now with that mug player and work that interior stunt. So it ends up being that nut inside twist that we'll run. We can run it again a variety of different ways. We can predetermine out of these two guys who's going to be the looper. They can do it off a backfield set or protection they're going to see. But it now, when we show just this three-man surface down here and here, we can stunt with the two guys on the edge a couple different ways, and we can stunt with the nose who's in the zero and play some games in there. So they never know which way they're going to go, and it kind of forces the offense to have to really account for our movement in there, which is tougher to defend against. And again, for both of these looks, the backers that aren't involved, they're still able to scrape and flow. We teach our backers when there's a stunt on in front of them just to play a little bit patient behind it, because you never know exactly where the gap is they're going to end up in with the D-line. They want to be aggressive. They want to hit it, and they want to get north and cause some disruption. So we got to slow the backers down a little bit back here so they don't just go bury into the gap they're assigned to when the play's not there. So we want some patience back there with those guys, and allows them to read the play and scrape and flow with it. Off of that, we'll layer in some backer blitz concepts off it as well. We'll send either a backer away or to the fullback with that same thing. And when we teach it, we talk with the end and backer that this is exactly the same as one of those two edge stunts, but it's just running from depth. So we can at least get that concept taught in pretty early with all of our front players, and they're going to understand there's two ways to run this go. You can have the DN go into that B gap and the backer off the edge, or you can go D-line off the edge and backer's going to go up and under into the B gap, which is exactly the same as our eyes and ears concept on the previous slide. With this mug player, we always have the opportunity to show and drop him out as well to try to gain an advantage in that protection, or drop one of the D linemen out to hold one of their best pass rushers so they're not able to, or pass blocker, sorry, so they're not able to be involved in the play. And we'll do the same thing inside, so that our hit is essentially that nut from depth that we ran. They can have choice on which gap to go. They can play it off of formation or protection, whatever we're putting in the game plan that week that's going to give us the most advantage and be able to attack the offense. And again, for all of these things, we can drop a guy out. So we have our stunts where we have the two stagnant players on the line working it. We'll also run the same things from depth with sending a backer, and we can vary however we want to do it. These are just two examples of what we've done in there as well. And then we also have some three-man games that we can work also. So again, when we look at this three-man surface down here, we're now going to, instead of just running ears with these two guys, sending him up and looping him into B gap, we'll add the nose in, and then we'll get him looping all the way back into an A gap that opens up. The rush and the nose would run exactly like they would on ears, and they would want to penetrate and get vertical to set edges and get to their rush lanes. And then we'll just have a longer stick to go in. We also have the inverse of it as well, where we'll crash the end, crash the rush, and loop the nose all the way around. So we can run it from a couple different ways, but it just plays off our eyes, ears, and nut concepts that we've already added in. So just a way for us to layer in some of these three-man games for us. We'll also add in a wrap concept with the backer from depth in a three-man game. where we will, again, similar to a nut stunt, he's going to go up, but we're adding the rush, the nose, and then loop the Mac around so we can pull O-linemen, try to create windows from us, to and away from flow. And it just kind of keeps the offense where they shouldn't really know who we're going to send and where, because we can just keep varying the amount of guys we go. So all these things we layer in terms of our concepts, from the 2-man, build it out to a 3-man, add backers from depth, and want to create a lot of movement inside because it plays to the advantage of the type of players that we have. We want to play fast. We want to play aggressive. And this type of system really allows us to deal with that. So again, hopefully there's some good examples of how we just move around in our front. I do have a couple clips that I can show as well here. So hopefully this is showing up okay, Coach, if you can give me a thumbs up that things are still all good. Perfect. So we just shown a couple things with our front here. So we're going to look at watching the edge on this side right now of how we're running that eyes concept, where we have the interior guy looping out and the outside guy chasing. So the end is just going to be reading the block of his tackle. His tackle is going to step down and he's just going to chase to the mesh, but then he's going to loop around to the outside for any contained possibility as well with it. So as you can see here, tackle goes down, our backer holds it. We'd like to see him hold it a little bit longer so the tackle can't turn out and just block back. So there's a huge cutback window in there, but the end does a good job right down. So they're trying to run that replay that he sees chase, then he sees the backer in his face, so he's got no choice but to hand it off. We have both things covered and we get a good tackle for loss on the play there. On the other side, if we notice, we have the same stunt on, and here's the guy when you get flow 2, he's going to try to come underneath the block, so now he can work around. So essentially he's trying to use up 2 linemen as a DN to free up the interior guy to loop back around and come outside on the play. It runs a little bit slower on that side because it's harder to get in right away. It's harder for the mug backer to see that guy go in before he can loop out. So he's just got to get out. But he does able to work out to get into his window, and he's got a free arm clear and not much of a block to the O-line until later to allow him to be able to get involved in the play. We have the same stunt on here from a double mug look as well. So we're getting flow 2 on this side, so they should run it the same way, whereas this guy's going to work to go under. He's going to show and then come around as well, try to make it to free him up. What we do wrong here is we don't end up stepping with flow. We have our linebacker step opposite flow, which puts him in a tough position there. We want to make him stepping with flow so they can't see it. The other big thing around the stunts is we don't necessarily want to take him out of the play. We want him to try to get vertical through that gap and disrupt things. If he gets 2, sure, he's going to play into a double team, but the idea is that he's going to be free and clear as well, and that penetrator will come clean, and then the looper will also have a chance to get around. So we don't care who comes free necessarily out of these. That's the beauty of the movement part. We just want them to be able to play aggressive and play fast. And you can see on the backside, we're running a similar stunt here where he's going to look to chase and get down there. This receiver coming in the block adds things a little bit more difficult for us, but he does a good job to fight through, and then he's just playing patient on top of it to work out for contain. And we're able to get a free kind of guy off the edge on the cutback. We do a good job to close all the windows in here. We should have another backer that is scraped into play if it does break. But we do a good job to close all the windows, and he's got no choice to bounce it to one of our 2 free defenders on the edge. So now we're going to look at the other concepts. We've done a lot where the end is chased and he's gone up and around. On this one here, we're asking the interior guy to penetrate, get north, and him to go upfield, sell it because it's second and long and he's getting past, and then loop underneath. This is a good stunt we found on draw situations because all the O-linemen are going to kick back and try to invite you all the way upfield and turn your shoulders to get you to go as wide as you can, but we're bringing a guy back in to hopefully cancel out any draw possibilities, and it end up working out for us on this play. Doesn't always, but it helped out here. So we're trying to get through to get vertical. We don't quite get there, but we are setting a nice pick on the tackle at minimum. So when we come in, we get a clean player to be able to come down inside and help out on that. So we're inviting upfield, then we're breaking it all the way in to find our open window. Our nose does a heck of a job to get off his block and to beat that and recognize the play. but we do have this looper folding now back inside to hopefully cancel out any draw scenario as well. We have a similar thing on this side now, where we're going to ask him to go north, but this is a good example of this guy trying to penetrate, get vertical, but still stay involved in the play, because he still should try to beat his guy with straight up speed on pass stuff and not worry about the tackle. And here we have a guy going upfield, the loop back in again. What he does, though, is he plays a little too much on the guard. We'd like him to not worry about engaging, try to beat him with speed so he can clear that contain, force the quarterback to step up or scramble right into him. By hitting the guard, he slows himself down a little bit, and he's not quite in the position he wants to be at that outside ear aiming point on the quarterback for his rush lane. He does get in there. Quarterback does get out of the pocket on us here, which is not exactly what we want to do. But this is just an example, again, of how we can send a guy through that gap and go up and under here and get to where we need to go. And then our flow defense comes into play, because there's our backer flowing across, and now we're able, or nose, sorry, there, and able to chase things down and cover for our buddies. So again, when we see rush lanes get closed up, which they are here, we're able to now scramble with our nose tackle and try to chase things down, because he's covering up everybody else's rush lane in there. So we do force him to throw and not get up too big of a play, and we get some pressure on the quarterback, which is nice. We talked about now that interior stunt, we can run off it as well. So we've layered in the two concepts on the edge. Now we're going to work our mug player with the nose. We can show off, then walk up, and vice versa, which allows us to be a little creative with it and give the guys some freedom, which is nice. So now he's going to walk up. They're working a penetrate and loop game on the inside pressure, which works nice. So then this nose does a heck of a job to knock the center back, and they're even sliding to him. So he does the good job to adjust and not just try to bury himself into A, but he works to find that open window in there as well. So with that down block, he's got the ability to make it right and come all the way across the top, which he does. We just need to finish on the quarterback a little bit more there, but it does a good job to create some pressure, and we still get the result we want by our guy penetrating and then looping around. And we end up having two players to use up three, and then we end up winning that battle. The nice thing about all the movement, especially inside, when they know we're doing it, now we get two one-on-ones on the edge, which hopefully we can win all the time. And not always going to be the case, but we challenge our players to win our one-on-one battles as well. So with this movement, it forces guys into one-on-one scenarios, and we never know when that's going to happen to get them right. We have an example here now of a mug player and a jet player. We've run a variety of stunts and games with them already, but now we're going to drop both of them out here and just end up with a three-man rush. Again, hopefully to create some one-on-one battles with our 3D linemen that they're able to win. So we see how it kind of plays out on this one. So we're showing on the edge like we're coming. We're expecting them to fan out and kick or use the back in protection. We have some one-on-ones at least on this side. They end up doubling the nose a little bit, but we still get our two one-on-ones now on the edge, and those are the battles that we have to win to be successful. Again, our nose tackle, who is a heck of a football player, second-round draft pick, ends up beating two guys and getting through. But you can see that we win our one-on-one battle here on the weak edge. He's got a lot of space to work with, but he's able to beat his man around the edge, and then we're getting pressure on the quarterback and force the scenario we want on second and long, which is us to get off the field. I have an example here now of the three-man game that we can run. So again, just layers on our concepts here. We've run the edge game, we've run the interior game, and now we'll work here, get vertical with those two players as fast as they can, sell it upfield, and then loop back into where our window is going to be. We're still balanced out in the front with our other two linebackers in here as well. So we're still sound for the run gaps, but we're creating movement on this side for the pass game as well. So they're tracking with the tackle. So we like our chances with a better athlete coming all the way through than him having to be able to fold around. And we're still getting vertical inside, which helps us out and to contain on the quarterback. So just an example of the three-man game, how we're working in. We don't get there on this one, but we still do get a little bit of pressure with our end coming back around and our backer looping all the way in to force maybe to throw sooner than he wanted to. So we're able to accomplish that and be able to get the result we want on the play. So we talked about, again, another 3-man game. This one's going to be run with the 3D lineman. It was similar to the one I drew up from depth with the backer, or now we're working with the 3 interior guys in this concept. So we're going to stunt, we're going to penetrate, same kind of thing, with 2 guys going north and then delaying and looping around here to find our open window. So it all just builds off our concept. We're showing 5 down. We have an extra D lineman in the game on this sense, but it's the same concept that we'll take from our 30 stuff and put into a 50 package that we might have to put in as well. So we're still able to get a free man on this. We're able to get a one-on-one with the D lineman on a running back, which is a battle that we like, yet we're still able to get vertical as fast as we can to penetrate inside and not worrying about having to hold up a gap or just use up our D lineman and grabbing no alignment. We want them to stay alive and get north and still get a chance to pressure on the quarterback, which we end up doing. So with this concept being the 3 interior guys, if we were to take one of the D linemen out, then this stacked backer would get involved in that concept as well. It's going a little choppy here. One more clip I should have in here. This one's shown from the wide. So this shows, again, here's the 3 interior guys that we're wrapping through, right? So there's the nose that goes to penetrate. There's the defensive lineman that rips inside. We do have a jet player on the edge as well. And now we're wrapping with our backer through that other gap to get north. Through the open window and able to pressure the quarterback off that. We force that scramble out of his pocket as well. So that's how we would run that same wrap concept, that 3-man game from depth in there. So those are all the kind of clips I had of that. Hopefully it's a nice little introduction to how we can create a lot of movement out of that 3-man package. It plays, again, to our strengths as a team with D linemen not having that as much size as we potentially would want in some of the spots in there, but we're playing to our strength of our guys by letting them play fast, play aggressive, get upfield and cause some havoc. In a variety of different ways we can use the movement off of that. There we go. So any questions you have for me there, Coach?
Coach, great job, man. I really enjoyed that. I got a handful of questions here written down.
Awesome.
These types of games are, as I start to draw them or scheme them, or we've even seen a few, they can really be a nightmare to block against. My question is, do you run them just as often if you're seeing a run-heavy team? Because I'm always concerned running them. I feel like maybe I'm guessing a little bit, and I don't know if I want to get caught out of position against a team who may tend to run it more often. What's your experience with that?
It kind of depends on the run scheme we're going to see. If we're seeing a lot of gap scheme and a ton of pullers, we may resort to more pressure with the linebacker. And setting maybe 4 from a side, or setting a single backer on that, so we have enough guys that can still read pullers and go. But we also have rules, like with our loopers too, with that guy being 2 yards off the ball in a mug front. If he sees a puller, we teach to come out of the stunt. So if we're going to run that nut stunt with a mug guy, but let's say he works his first step upfield and a puller is coming to him, he's not going to loop back to where the puller came from. He's still going to be able to play with flow. And that yard to start helps us out a little bit on that. But having that mug guy at about 2 yards gives him time to read and go. So, excuse me, based on the scheme we're getting, we may not run as many interior games with teams that are going to run gap schemes and pull guys, whereas some of those games will be good for inside zone cutback teams, because now we can loop a guy to where that cutback is going to be. And the other thing we try to scout up and do on that is to take a look at the formational tendencies that we're going to get out of it. And maybe certain formations we want to blitz and certain formations we want to stunt, whether it's a formation or a backfield set. We'll do a lot of breakdowns on that to figure out, okay, where's the best kind of spot to run these things? And it's all based on, you're right, what the team does. So certain gap schemes and things like that, we won't run a ton of interior games on, but excuse me, but we might have some more pressures to attack them there.
And what percentage of the time would you say you're running some sort of a game?
More often than not with us, because just if we find if we just sit in a base front, we're not as successful with our guys. Our guys are better on movement. So we're going to try to move more often than we're not going to. It's just better suited for our personnel. If we get to certain games, if we think we can play the run without much movement or without maybe even a lighter box against certain teams that we have to defend more pass stuff, we can do that and kind of give up a little bit more on the run. But for the most part, we want to move with our guys and vary the different type of movement that we're going to get. But we just don't want to sit in one thing all the time to let the offense get a book on us and be able to attack kind of a weakness in our front or our scheme.
Okay, I got 2 questions left.
Awesome.
Next question. You guys see obviously an awful lot of motion up there. How much or when are there games that you want to play, but a certain motion would get us out of this game completely? Or is it we're putting this game on, or this 2-man game here, this 3-man stunt, this stunt has to come off with a certain motion?
It does happen a little bit, and we try to get those kind of situations taught right off the bat. We kind of know what will hurt it. So if we do have a certain game on that can't be run on this look, whether it's the O lineman or the fullback is on that side and we have a game on, we don't want to run it, they'll know automatically to get it out of it. Usually the motion, the way we're handling it is we're keeping it to the DBs in the back end to handle that motion. So we can keep everything the same in the front and let the back end rotate and move around with it. There are a couple things that we'll see that we don't want to do it against, especially teams when teams will empty things out. We can't be caught in always like a 6-man pressure or a 6-man game built in on that versus empty look. We'll have checks to those certain things. But it also depends on the opponent we're going against. Certain teams we're not worried about seeing a certain look that'll hurt that, so we won't prep as much or won't dive into that as much as we need to. But other teams, it's like, okay, we have a couple more checks in this week just because if they do this, we got to get out of our base stuff and get to something special against those guys. So it really depends on the opponent, but dealing with the motion rules is something big for a whole defense that we have to have in right off the bat in training camp, is how we're going to deal with all the different motion patterns, and this motion will affect you guys, but this motion won't. We have to teach all that stuff right off the bat.
Okay, last question is, you used 2 vocab words that I was not familiar with. I picked up on them a little bit as you continue to teach, but I'm really trying to up my own personal vocabulary in the coaching world. You talked about a mug linebacker and a jet linebacker. Like, could you define those for us?
So that's just the way we've defined any linebacker going up to be a part of the D-line. So we'll define a mug backer of the backer lining up in the B gap. A jet backer will be the way we term it when he lines up off the edge. And then we have a tough term, so when he lines up in an A gap, just so we can signal that in if we wanted to tag that onto any front that we already have or any situation. Just terms that we've defined certain alignments really for our guys. That's the way we've done it. We try to simplify and have a kind of a buzzword for a lot of the terms and stuff that we use, and finding very successful. So when, let's say, we're running scout stuff with our defense, the offensive coaches know those buzzwords and they tell them, well, you're mugged in this front. So the guy knows what he's supposed to do. So just a way we've defined certain terminologies in there. And so we just always go jet off the edge, mug in a B gap, just so we can tag that onto anything that we want to do.
Wow, really like it. I'm big on a shared vocabulary. I just think that so many advantages can be had by, almost giving everything you can a name. Sometimes we could give names to things and we haven't yet, and it takes us too long to communicate it in game. So
agreed.
Before I sign off here, first of all, thank you so much for your time. It was so good. And here I am again, tempted, because so many of these games tempt me because I've seen how effective they can be. So I'm excited to just look and to see which of these against the people we play could be the best for us to be able to use. Any closing thoughts here, Coach, before we sign off?
No, I just want to obviously thank you for having me on. It was a pleasure to get on and chat some football, and hopefully it helps with stir some things up for some guys and what they want to play. And obviously we're doing this kind of because it's the best use of our guys, and there's many different ways to play it. This is what we found worked for us, and the more you kind of experiment and look at different things, the more things can click in. And I just want to thank you for having me on. It was a pleasure to chat some football, and looking forward to watching more of the videos that you guys are putting out. There's some great learning opportunities on there. So thank you again.
And guys can find you on Instagram under what?
Coach_Beck, BECH.
Okay. Are you on Twitter?
Yes, I am. Same kind of handle, Coach Beck.
Okay, at Coach_Beck, BECH. Look him up, guys. Thanks for joining us tonight. And we'll be back tomorrow night here for another home clinic. If you could, like, subscribe. We appreciate all the support. We'll see you guys soon.